Welcome to a new edition of the Gerety Talks. My name is Lucia Ongay and I am the co-founder of the Gerety Awards, the creative award that is redefining creative benchmarks by showing the value of the female vision in advertising. Our talk today is about Italian creativity, creatività italiana, and we are joined by our three guests, Lavinia Francia, Executive Creative Director at Ogilvy Milano. Hi, Lavinia.
Ciao, Lucia. Hi, everyone.
Anna Paterlini, co-founder and client director at NEWU. Ciao, Anna.
Ciao, Lucia.
And
ciao a tutti.
Chiara Monticelli, group creative director at NEWU. Ciao, Chiara. Thanks for joining.
Ciao, grazie a voi.
Thank you all for being here and thanks for your time and joining us today. So, can you tell us about your role and your agencies and what the biggest challenges are? Who would like to start?
I'll start since I was
Yes.
the first one, if you want to, so we'll give the order. So I'm a newly appointed Executive Creative Director at Ogilvy Milan. And my mission is very clear. The agency is very big. It's about 180 people working with within different disciplines. So the idea is to help people from different backgrounds work together and produce excellent creative work, making the most out of every discipline, whether it's data, whether it's technology, whether it's media, and so on and so forth. So the idea is a multidisciplinary attitude to the creative work.
Good. Who would like to continue? Anna?
I can continue. So I am the co-founder and client director of NEWU, which is a consultancy that operates in marketing and communication. The way we approach generally projects and campaigns for our clients is having tried to come up always with ideas and campaigns and projects that are truly phygital at heart. So it means that everything that we come up with lives at the crossroad between the physical and the digital world. And generally, we try to leverage three pillars that are critical to the way we work with creativity, which is technology, creativity at large, and media. And by media, we mean not just necessarily all the outputs that we are used to, but we mean mostly like a space which can be either physical or digital, where we can actually make sure that our clients meet their targets in an unconventional but effective way.
Chiara?
It's my turn, I guess. I recently arrived in NEWU, that is an independent agency, and actually much more of that because it's also a production company, a design laboratory, an incubator of original idea, and so on, and much more. As a group creative director, my aim is, of course, challenge my team and myself to always do better and find every time, the best solution and more creative ones to every project and every client. As simple as that.
So this year there was an Italian agency at the top of a very famous creative ranking. How would you define Italian creativity? And do you think there is something specific about it that makes it immediately recognizable?
I'll start first again. I think Italy is really weird as a country because there's a lot less space for irony. So everything tends to be a lot emotional in the tone of voice. So I think that what's winning now is exactly the work that is proving that there is space for being ironic, for being lighthearted. And actually what is more identifying for the Italian creativity, I guess, is the sense of community. There's a lot of works actually are made to engage communities, large groups of people. So there's a social part in it, a lot of people involved and a lot of people sharing the moment, sharing the experience. And this is something that is really valuable. It always has been, but specifically in the last years.
Do you think it has something to do with the pandemic or not necessarily?
I think it does. I mean, somehow it does. Because of course, after the pandemic, a lot of people rediscover the pleasure of being together. So whatever brings people together now, back together as a strength. But it's not just because of that. I think it's because Italians love to be engaged by shared experiences, shared emotions. So it's something that the pandemic stressed out a little bit, but it was already definitely there already.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can build on what just Lavinia just said, I would tend to agree with the fact that there is a lot about emotions and a lot about creativity, which I think that it's a huge plus that somehow falls also under the big hat of like made in Italy. So when we talk about Italian creativity in advertising, I think that it falls also under the same hat of when we think about Italian creativity in fashion, in design, in many other industries. There is a certain aesthetics that pays a lot of attention to details, to the craft, to the elegance, to the way that we portray a certain project. I tend also to be a little bit critical about that as well, because I think that it's a huge plus, but it can also be a downside. Consider that sometimes we tend to spend a lot of time and attention to details, craft, and elegance, and sometimes we spend a little less time worrying about the effectiveness of a certain campaign or project because we are so much involved into the impact that we want to have in the now, in the hic et nunc, and sometimes we spend probably a little less energy and time in thinking about how an action can actually bring value in the long term. So I agree with that, and I think it's great. I also think it should be an awareness that acts as an encouragement to kind of like do better in terms of being more effective when we come up with a campaign. I think that that's kind of like a challenge of Italian creativity in general, like find ways to apply creativity in advertising, not just to like the campaign, the one-off campaign, but more about processes and trying to have an impact also on the business and operation perspective of what we do in advertising.
Okay.
Well, I don't know about a specific style, Italian style. I don't know. I agree with what Lavinia and Hannah said, but for sure, I think that if there's something that we all have in common are the same benchmark and standard to which we all aspire. On the contrary, I would say there's a common will to have, you know, a more international style, and the awarded campaign can give me that, because you know this kind of allure of international style. We would like all to have that kind of perception, and there's something that depends not just on the creativity but also on the client and the budget you have on your disposal.
And what is your all-time favorite Italian campaign? That's a difficult question.
This was the most difficult question, because it's an impossible task to define just one creativity. So I would like to mention, you know, some commercial that, in my opinion, made the history of Italian advertising. And I could say history because we are talking a lot of years ago, and I grew up with the kind of commercial, and maybe they are also the reason that I fall in love with this job and decided to do this for a living. And I'm talking about the old BMW commercials, such as, maybe you will remember, No One is Perfect, or Suddenly Everything Looks Older. That kind of commercial that has this specific, I know it's a clearly an old way to do advertising, but they had this kind of precise style, this elegance, simply and beauty, brilliant inside, and this master execution. And I think they've set a level and benchmark that achieved, conveyed this message to all the Italians and enters in all the Italian house. And this is something, because sometimes we forget we are not doing this campaign we are not the target of our own campaign. And our aim as creativity is to reach a larger audience possible. And I think the commercial managed to do it because everyone remembers them.
See, I agree with Chiara. I would say that that's the criteria that I would use as well to choose what is my all-time favorite Italian campaign. And that's also why my favorite all-time favorite campaign is very nazional popolare, and is Du gusti is meglio che one. And for me, it's probably like the one that has really succeeded in staying with the target for a very long time. And actually it was success. I don't know, Lucia, if you know this campaign. It's a campaign from the 90s for an ice cream called Maxibon. I think that abroad the name is Tandem for the actual product by Motta.
Okay.
Creative executive director was Pietro Maestri. And Du gusti is meglio che one is just it just represents very well the stereotypical Italian male on the beach that is trying to hook up with the I don't know, like German tourist that is coming to visit, and he's trying to come up with this like Itanglish in order to speak with the foreigner. And it was so successful in the 90s, and the expression "Du gusti is meglio che one," which means two flavors are better than one, it has become really part of the way. It's an expression that you would use even out of context to talk about, having two things is better than having just one. And there are people who were born after the campaign that will use the expression because it's now part of the language. And to me, that's like the major ambition that you can have as an advertising campaign.
So I'm going to go on a different way because it's very hard to pick an all-time favorites, but for sure one of my favorites is Rolling Stone Life and Roll, beautiful manifesto for Rolling Stones for the magazine. And it's, I'm a copywriter, so I think it's beautifully written. It's a lovely example of how you can pick out the brand personality and make a provocative statement. It was really fun because the whole film was making fun of the rock and roll stars who are not behaving like rock and roll stars anymore, because there's politicians who have been taking their place as provocative figures and excessive figures. So it's a call to action for all rock stars to be rock stars again. And it's beautifully written, has a incredible tone of voice, provocative tone of voice, and it's outstanding in Italy because we're not that used to that tone of voice. And it's beautifully crafted, overall ironic and profound, because it has deep roots in the society and politics of the time. So I would pick definitely that one. It has a deep connection with moment it was aired, and probably the political moment of Italy of all times, because nothing seems to change actually. So yeah, that would be my choice. Yes.
And what about the recent Italian campaigns? What recent Italian campaigns have captured your attention?
Well, I think that for a recent Italian campaign, I would go down a slightly different route than traditional campaign, because again, talking about what Italian creativity really is, and being like something that is made in Italy, but to me, it's also like finding creative solutions to urgent problems. I think that the best example, the one that I love the most, even if it came up in a very dramatic context is the Easy COVID-19 project that was invented by the engineer Cristian Fracassi and Dr. Renato Favero, where during the pandemic, they basically found a way to turn the mask from Decathlon into one of those oxygen things. And I mean, that's obviously not like a traditional advertising campaign, but as an operation that wants to solve creatively a problem through a product that it's in commerce that you can find pretty much everywhere in the world, to me just like represents perfectly what the ambition of Italian creativity should be, even in the long term, in order to position itself in the international market. So being able to find very quick and very important and useful solution to problems, whether the problem is that we need equipment in hospital, or finding new ways to interact with our targets, or finding new ways to talk about pressing issues in the world.
Okay.
About your, recent campaign, I think I have to mention Rolling Stone Rocking Mamas, because it's a campaign that managed to make a complaint, a very actual complaint about the pandemic, but still keeping, ironic and irreverent tone of voice. And also To Doom by Netflix, because of its minimalist style and simplicity that hides actually great and universal insight.
No, I really want to add to that. I'm not going to pick any other ones. I'd really love to add to that, because they are two great campaigns. Rolling Stone, Rocking Mamas for Rolling Stones is really, really insightful and smart in a way that it actually goes back and celebrates the role of women of moms in society, which the pandemic has actually made a little bit more, even more valuable, if it wasn't perceived as that before.
And talking about awards, you have all been on the jury for many awards, including Gerety in 2021. What do you think makes a campaign award worthy, or what do you look for when you are judging?
So I would say that we often receive briefs from clients that want to achieve the wow effect. I don't know how many of you have heard that in a brief from a client. Rather than that, I think that what is more pressing is to create the aha experience, which is also the tadam that we were talking about with Netflix. So is that certain creative flair that is both like simple, but it's also immediate and memorable. And most importantly is the sudden realization that yes, you finally have that insight, that solution, that answer to a problem that has troubled you for some time. And it's yet very easy and immediate. You don't have to explain it. So the haha experience is something that makes me say, okay, I'm looking at something that is great and is award worthy.
I would say, I mean, one of the rules for judging is always finding something that is game changing. So you always want to look for that something that is game changing, and it's subverting the rules of the category. But apart from that, I would say I look for something that is relevant for people. It has to be it has to have an insight on a topic that is relevant for people. And even if it's local, so it could be a local insight, something that though resonates with the people and the target and the audience. And at the same time, it has to present a twist on how it's made. So it's something unexpected, whether it's using technology or media or social media, whatever that is. But it's best if it has an execution that actually turns things around.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, the insight is the most important thing, the sparkle behind the idea, the things that make you sad every time, oh, I wish I've done it, or I didn't think about that, Another important facet is the purpose. That is playing an increasingly important role. Nowadays, communication has to have, some conscience and values, and it all appreciated. I also love simplicity and ideas that go straight to the point, because you can hide behind anything. If you have a simplicity, the idea is there, and then you have to have a good idea. And of course, also crafting, because the way the idea is packed and crafted, it's a great part as a great role in what we can call it creating the soul of a communication.
And Lavinia, your bio says you dreamed of becoming a librarian when you were a kid, but fell in love with advertising. How did that falling in love with advertising happen?
Well, it's a weird story. Thanks for asking. I really wanted to become a librarian, and actually I was finishing my studies in communications with editorial attitude. So I really wanted to go to this course, which was about digitalizing the libraries. So it was about finding a technology to actually preserve all the books that could possibly exist on the planet. But then to finish my studies, I had to go through an internship. So I was in Bologna, my hometown, and so I found an internship in a creative agency. And first day I started writing radios, and by the end of the week I recorded those radios, and I fell in love with this idea of seeing how what you have in mind can actually become true. It's so fascinating. It's a great emotion. So that moment I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And that's it. And that's basically it.
Okay, that's
all because of a radio.
And Anna, you're a trained cultural heritage practitioner. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but how does it help you in your job today? Do you apply what you learned?
Well, being a cultural heritage practitioner means that I have a background in cultural heritage and archaeology.
Okay.
So, and I have worked a lot in audience development and communication for museums and archaeological sites. And I think that having seen other things outside advertising is an incredible source of inspiration. I came to the industry with a very fresh look, but also the fact that I worked on audience development and marketing assessment and evaluation for places like Herculaneum, which is the sister site of Pompeii near Naples, means that basically you have to learn to negotiate between different groups of stakeholders constantly, which they are visitors, non-visitors, heritage managers, government bodies, you have the journalists, you have the scientific communities, and they all have very different needs, they have very different visions, they have very different expectations, and you have to make sure that you accommodate all those needs and expectations without never losing sight of your final goal, which sometimes can be conflicting with the needs of other stakeholder groups. So I think that it has definitely trained me on finding creative solutions that can accommodate multiple groups, while at the same time being like very resilient in front of challenges that are not necessarily top of mind of the decision makers. So when you're thinking about promoting an archaeological site from a marketing perspective, it's not really the first thing that government bodies have in mind. So if you can work around that, I think that you're ready to pretty much negotiate with any client or any brief or any company that might have, issue in finding ways to engage a target. So if you can make young people interested in archaeology, I think you can make them interested pretty much in anything. So I think that it was a great training for me before landing into advertising and communication.
Cool. And Chiara, when preparing the panel, you mentioned being a mom has given you a new perspective on the way the advertising industry works and the increasing importance of a work-life balance. So can you tell us more about that new perspective?
Oh, yeah, well, I believe perhaps of what we are lived in the past year, what we experienced with the pandemic in recent years and what we've gone through, I believe a new way of conceiving work, and especially in our creative industry, is emerging. People, are becoming more aware of the importance of a work-life balance, the importance of set boundaries, and also to take care of their mental health and well-being. This is something we see more and more in the new generation, I think, and I believe this is a lesson we have to learn from them.
And speaking about leadership, how do you encourage the people that work with you to give out their creative best?
Well, I would say that there are two things that we always say all the time when it's time to encourage the team. And the first thing is that if humanity is going to Mars, there is a pretty high chance that whatever we come up with can be done at some point somehow. So generally we use that just to kind of like expand whatever limit we can put on ourselves when it comes to creativity. And the other thing is that we always say that we are our very first client, and we are very tough and we're very demanding. So the ideas that we come up with, they have to make us happy, first of all, before we can actually present it to the client. So if we feel proud of it, if it makes us feel like we're truly looking forward to put it into production, then it means that we got to really our creative best. So generally is just think of yourself as the client. Would you be happy with it? If the answer is yes, then you got it. Otherwise, there is more work to do to reach Mars.
I believe in the rule of being yourself, which doesn't fit just for me, but for the whole for everyone. So what I think is very important in a creative team or in an agency today is allowing people to just be themselves. Everyone has their passions. I mean, we're in the creative community. We're all passionate about something. We all have things that make us feel good, or those things that we want to explore. So I love the idea of allowing people to express themselves and feeling safe about it. So of course we all have responsibilities, and we all have strict deadlines. It's all the same everywhere. But if we all feel we can be ourselves and we can make this work the funniest work we can ever do, that works. It's fun. So that's kind of the whole point. It's a creative work. It's supposed to be it's supposed to be going in multiple direction, and it's supposed to be fun. So this is if we can make it the way it should be, that's a good way to go.
I think the best way to learn is from the example. So the best encouragement I can give them is by doing myself what I expect from my team. So always trying to improve, to push more, and keep up with the good work. And I would say also never stop fighting, and even against me. I mean, we are all humans. We make mistakes. So I say them always, if you presented me something you believe is strong, and maybe the first time I didn't get it, try again, try to sell me the idea, build a stronger case, believe in it, because this is just a little piece of what we could call it a never give up training. You will have to train again every day to never really give up to make the best idea ever you can do.
So never give up, believe in yourself, and have fun while doing it. And
Why not?
And the last question, we were speaking about campaigns and awards. So what kind of campaigns or topics would you like to see rewarded in the future at creative festivals?
I think that we all want to see face the problems that we all face. So I'm talking about human rights, of course, LGBTQ rights, minorities' rights. and apart from that, climate change and what's compelling about the planet. The point is, I think it's not how it's not just which topics we want to see discussed, but it's how. Because of course we all live in different sides of the world. This is something that we all face, but you know, all over all over the world there's problems that need to be solved and need someone to take a stand to be solved. But the point is, I think it's more about how we're going to face them, which is with a pragmatical way to help, not something that is just, okay, we're talking about this today, but a program for people to help, for people to be aware of the problem, and for people to participate in the change.
So for me, I think that so we see more and more technology and innovation that it's basically part of the way we do communication today. There are more interfaces that stand between people when they talk to each other, between brands and targets, between brands and communities. And that's something that it's there to stay. I mean, we are not going to get rid of the technology. We're not going to stop innovation. That's just going to build up more and more and more. And sometimes it's great. Sometimes the interface can actually be an obstacle to the connection that you can have with your community. But I guess that what I would like to see then is more campaigns that actually leverage the technology, not just for the effectiveness, but also to achieve what we call intimacy at scale, which is that sense of intimacy that you can create when you have like generally a one-to-one conversation with a person. So finding new ways to use technology as a tool rather than an objective, to really create this conversation that can be very genuine, very spontaneous, and very effective from also an emotional standpoint, and scale it thanks to the power of technology. So take a one-to-one conversation and make it a one-to-one conversation that you can have with millions of people. That's something that I would really like to see, not just rewarded, but in general, see more people experimenting with. Because the potential is all there. It's just a matter of trying to use the technology in a smart way so that it becomes our ally rather than like an obstacle or an interface that we have to deal with.
Yes.
I'm expecting to see meaningful campaign with a purpose. Of course, last edition of Cannes was all about purpose, and it's an ongoing trend, and I sincerely hope that it keeps going on. The topic was talking about earlier, Lavinia, was our rights, of course. But I have to say, after 2-3 years of really heavy message, my guilty pleasure will see also simple, straight to the point, heart-lighted campaign, maybe some entertainment, because I think we really need to come back to have some fun somehow. So
Okay, hopefully we will be able to have some more fun with the following campaigns. So thank you so much for joining us and for your time. And best of luck with all the projects and all the campaigns that you will be making soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucia, for having me.
Thank you.